Battlefield 1's campaign consists 6 different chapters, also known as war stories. Each of these stories show the true horrors of the First World War through the eyes of the Allies. The first chapter is the prologue, called Storm of Steel, which starts with an unnamed soldier of the Harlem Hellfighters, having a flashback of the Meuse-Argonne offensive. This section is pretty brutal. We assume control of multiple members of the regiment, trying to survive the German attacks. But no matter how good they perform, we'll be killed over and over again, switching the perspective to different soldiers. After all, we are not expected to survive. However, there is a turning point. A handful of British tanks force the Germans to retreat. Thus a counter-offensive begins.
Forward! For king and country!
Yeah, for king and country. Wait a sec, something's missing. Alexa, play Rule Britannia.
I can't find the song.
Now! Fucking hell. At the end of the counter-attack, we switch to the unnamed soldier with PTSD.
Guten Tag!
He miraculously gets saved by the artillery, but falls unconscious. When he wakes up, he finds himself surrounded by seemingly dead soldiers and one German survivor. After pointing their guns at each other, they slowly lower it, showing a bit of humanity in this absurd situation. Beautiful. Too bad the game is only getting worse from here, because compared to the prologue, the upcoming stories are just fairy tales. The next chapter is called Through Mud and Blood. In this one, we control Daniel Edwards, a chauffeur who is assigned to be the driver of a Mark V tank during the Battle of Cambrai. The tank's name is Bess, and its crew includes 4 fellows: the tank commander, Townsend, aka Bagby, McManus, Finch, and Pritchard. Our first task is to help the British forces to advance by destroying artillery guns and capturing enemy areas. After the first bigger confrontation, Bess needs some immediate repair. Finch tries to patch her up, but dies during the process. Obtaining Finch's wrench, Edward repairs Bess, so we can move on for another 100 meters, cause the tank gets stuck in the mud and is overrun by the German infantry. As a last attempt to survive, Townsend orders Pritchard to release a pigeon with their current position back to the artillery, in hope they survive the shelling. Townsend gets wounded, Pritchard gets shot and dies, so it's up to Edwards to finish the task.
Edwards! Release the pigeon! That is an order, son! Do you understand me?
This short segment with the pigeon is perfect, as it is flying peacefully above hell, even if it only lasts for a couple of seconds. It's just mesmerizing. Luckily, the call was good. The remaining team stays alive after the shelling, therefore we can keep moving towards Cambrai. In the next mission, Edward scouts the nearby forest, with Bess lurking behind him. My toes, my toes! Then he has to gather a couple of spark plugs, cause Bess breaks down again. McManus, the absolute mad lad, abandons the mission for like 5 minutes.
That tank is going nowhere and he'll be dead by morning. We're
Then he changes his mind and comes back to save Edwards from a German horse.
I lost my way back there.
With Bess ready to go, the crew attacks a nearby occupied town and a railway station that turns out to be a staging area where the Germans are fixing to retake Cambrai. We ain't letting that happen, so we finish off their tanks and armored vehicles. But in the end, we get caught in an artillery strike. With Bess immobilized, we get overrun again. Left with no other option, Townsend sacrifices himself by blowing Bess up.
Sorry, Bess.
His sacrifice saves McManus and Edwards, and the chapter ends with the two walking to Cambrai.
What do we do now, driver?
We walk.
Moving on, the next chapter is Friends in High Places. This story revolves around a dude named Clyde Blackburn during the Battle of Arras. Blackburn is an American pilot who likes to gamble and screw other people over because he's an intergalactic fuckwaffle. He's playing poker with a British officer, George Rackham. Blackburn loses, but it doesn't stop him from stealing Rackham's plane.
You lost! I beat you!
The thing is, Rackham, it's a very beautiful aeroplane and you're kind of a jackass.
Stay the hell away from my kite! Oh, you bastard!
Posing as Rackham, he goes on an aerial exercise with Rackham's gunner, Wilson. However, the exercise gets interrupted by a bunch of German aircraft. We shoot them down and follow the last one for a while. What we find is, surprisingly, a German munitions base. Wilson takes a couple of pictures of the base, and Blackburn convinces him to show the pictures to the British command. Wilson agrees on the condition that whatever happens, Blackburn brings him home in one piece.
Sure thing.
Promise. I need your word.
Okay, I promise.
An immediate assault is launched. Our job is to protect the bombers, so they could blow up the fortress. The base gets destroyed, but we get caught in the explosion, and our plane crashes behind enemy lines. With the two separated, Blackburn goes deep into no man's land to find Wilson, and he succeeds, but Wilson is severely injured. Blackburn wants to end his partner's suffering, but Wilson reminds him of his promise, and he also reveals that he knew Blackburn was a fraud from the beginning.
You're not George Rackham, are you? Son of the fourth bloody Earl of Windsor. How naive do you think I am?
For the first time in his life, Blackburn keeps his word and carries Wilson to British lines, where he stumbles upon Rackham. Blackburn gets arrested, and we jump to a couple weeks later. We are in London. Wilson is now fully recovered, and Blackburn is preparing for the court-martial when the place gets attacked by German aircraft.
Wilson, with me! I need a gunner!
Over here! I'll do it! Rackham, let me help!
You don't deserve to fly!
And the first casualty is no other than Rackham.
If I'm gonna die up there!
Wasting no time, Blackburn and Wilson hop in a plane to take on the enemy fleet. They destroy everything they can, until they crash into a Zeppelin, hijacking the Zeppelin's flag gun. Blackburn shoots down the other airships, while Wilson is having a never-ending fistfight. To avoid a collision with the destroyed Zeppelin, our heroes jump into the Thames. Then Blackburn sums up what happened really, as he's climbing out of the river.
And that's my story. A selfish man who risked his own life to save another, and in doing so found he was saved himself. Things get mixed up in wartime though, and you'll probably hear other versions. A rogue pilot who stole a plane, who killed his buddy, then lied, cheated, and murdered his way across half the Western Front, only to escape court-martial in the chaos of an air raid. But don't listen to any of that. What you heard from me is the truth. I wouldn't tell you if it wasn't. Would I?
Oh god. This dude killed Wilson
How naive do you think I am?
and simply fled the ship when the Germans attacked. Next up, Avanti Savoia. Their protagonist here is an aged man, Luca Vincenzo Cocciola. It's his birthday, and he tells his daughter an old story. The location is the Dolomites. In 1918, Italy was fighting Austro-Hungary among the Alps. Luca had a twin brother, Matteo. The two had reached the age of 21 a couple days ago, and they were preparing for their last battle. Matteo's battalion had been ordered to capture a fort in an enemy territory, while Luca's unit, the Arditi, had been ordered to support Matteo's battalion. According to Luca, he single-handedly cleared fortresses, disabled anti-aircraft guns. He even stopped an entire aerial assault, until the enemy was like, yeah, whatever old man, now comes the sad part. So they blew up the mountain, burying Matteo's unit. Without hesitation, Luca headed down to the fortress to find Matteo. After clearing the base, he found Matteo's unit, then Matteo, already deceased. The chapter ends with Luca wishing his brother a happy birthday.
He never got older. And here I am, still. Buon compleanno, Matteo.
The fourth chapter is The Runner. set during the Gallipoli campaign. Just to be clear, runners in the First World War were foot messengers, carrying information from one unit to another. The runner we control is an Aussie war veteran, Frederick Bishop. He is greeted by his new charge, Jack Foster. Since Foster is an inexperienced kid, Bishop is reluctant at first, but he takes Foster under his wing.
You have to take this kid off me.
Of course not. He came all this way just to see you. Frederick Bishop, the pride of Australia. Been lied about his age to get past conscription.
Before storming the beach, Bishop orders a dreadnought strike on the Ottoman defences and commands Foster to stay on the boat until he fires the signal flare. Bishop storms the beach, helping the British forces to advance up to the hills. Then he fires his flare, only to be scared by Foster, who disobeyed his orders. Bishop scolds Foster and shows him the dead soldiers on the beach. That emotionally breaks him.
I'm gonna die.
No, you're not. You're Australian. We're impossible to kill.
Yeah, I guess so.
Unless...
After comforting him, Bishop teaches him how to use rifles, just in time. On the next day, we meet the Australians' commanding officer, Whitehall. He orders Bishop to get report from the front line, while Foster stays to protect the HQ.
You're here with me, and you will be running.
Learning that all the lines are falling, Bishop goes back to the HQ, where Foster saves him by a sick no-scope. Whitehall then sends Bishop to the rear command to inform them about advancing further. But oh ho ho, the rear command has already left. The Brits are retreating to the beach and they are shelling the village to cover their withdrawal. Since there is no time to waste, Bishop wants to hop on a horse, but remembers Whitehall's words.
You will be running.
So he puts down the horse and keeps running to the front line instead. Finding Whitehall, we learn that he sent his men to secure the fort, including Foster. We can't let him die, so we make our way to the fort, where we find Foster with lots of injured soldiers, but he doesn't want to leave them behind. So Bishop's plan is to draw the Ottomans' attention to himself, acting as if he was capturing the fort, buying some time for his teammates to escape. Before attempting to do so, he gives his flare gun to Foster, telling him to shoot it up when he's in safety behind Allied lines.
Yeah. You're a proper Aussie now. Gotta look the part. Right.
Attacking the fort, we take down every single Ottoman by ourselves. Unfortunately, one of them injures Bishop fatally, as he's slowly bleeding out. He sees Foster's flare shot up from the beach, indicating that their withdrawal was successful. Then Bishop gets shelled.
Good kid.
Last but not least, nothing is written. In this chapter the location is the Arabian Peninsula, where we control Zara Gufran, a Bedouin rebel working with Lawrence of Arabia, trying to overthrow the Ottoman Empire. First we investigate a derailed train. Looking for a code book, moving inside, we find and snatch it. However, it turns out to be a trap set up by the Ottoman officer Tilkeci. Lawrence arrives to save Zara, then they start to interrogate Tilkeci, and we learn why they needed those codes. They are trying to lure an armoured train, the Canobar, into a trap. The Ottomans use this train to terrorize the Bedouins, so it must be stopped.
Soon all that you know, and all that you love, will be ashes. You will all be free to die. Oh, you animal!
Oh, the Netflix movie?
I'm sorry. My friend here, she can be a little brusque.
You're going to tell me how to lie to your train, so we can lure it into a trap and destroy it.
You would need an entire book of communication codes. Oh, like this one, you mean?
What? He didn't know about the code book? What kind of trap was that? To order the train to stand down, we have to send it 3 encrypted messages in capsules. These capsules are carried by 3 commanders in nearby camps. We take them down one by one, but before we could send the last message, Tilkeji knocks Zara unconscious. I don't know how could he escape. The last time we saw him, he was cuffed, but whatever. Tilkeji tells that he sent the last message with the coordinates of Lawrence's camp. Then he proceeds to end Zara's life. Unfortunately for him, Zara kills him easily.
The legend of Lawrence of Arabia dies tonight. Now the hunter becomes the hunted.
Zara hurries back to Lawrence, who had relocated before the attack. The new plan is to ambush the train at a small town as it stops for supplies. After clearing the enemy presence, we set up the trap and blow up the train. Finally. The chapter ends with Lawrence hinting at a bigger mission.
And you're right, we do need to think bigger, act bigger. Maybe even the Suez Canal. Tell me, what do you know about battleships?
With all the stories completed, the game ends with the cinematic Remember Us.
When this is all over and the war is won, they will remember us. But until that day comes, we will stand. We will look death in the eye. And we will fight.